mysteries of Android. These are just 10 interesting things. It sounds like some of the people here are very familiar with Android, so a lot of these may be known to you, but maybe a couple aren't. Some people don't know, whatever. We'll talk a little bit about the history, things that are going on in the Android world. So each mystery, we're going to start out with a question, and we're going to pick someone, not an employee of FiberLink, to answer. If you're not here, and if you get it correct, we'll give you a shirt, just to make it a little more fun. So we'll start with hopefully a simple one. So in the world of Android, which would most people probably prefer? An eclair, some gingerbread, or a donut? I think we had a volunteer?
Gingerbread.
Gingerbread. Let's see if he's correct. Absolutely, some gingerbread. And why is that? Gingerbread, yes. Do you want gray or white, sir? Gray? There you are. So gingerbread is the friendly name for Android version 2.3 operating system. Eclair and donut are friendly names for earlier versions of the Android OS. Okay, so let's look at a chart here. Well, let's talk a little bit about it. Naming the Android OS releases. So since version 1.5, released in April, Google has named all of its major OS releases after types of desserts. They started with donut 1.5, and the most recent one is 4X, ice cream sandwich. Google has acknowledged that they use this naming convention, but the reason or how it came up with it is kept a secret. They haven't told anyone that, right? So if we look at the history, here is the history of the Google OSs with their approximate release dates and the names. So you'll see that 1.0 and 1.1 did not have a dessert name that we're aware of. Okay, so 1.2 started with C, cupcake. Something people don't know is that the OSs go alphabetical in their naming as well. So we had cupcake, then we had donut. For some reason, 2.0 and 2.1 both had eclair. I think it's because they were released very close together. 2.2 was froyo. Everyone knows what froyo stood for? Anyone? Froyo, yeah, it was abbreviation for something.
Frozen yogurt.
Frozen yogurt, yes. Froyo was frozen yogurt, yes. I was like, froyo, what's that? Well, they called it frozen yogurt, yeah. So froyo was their name for frozen yogurt. Gingerbread with 2.3, then we went to honeycomb with 3.0, and now we're on ice cream sandwich. Does anyone know what the rumored name for Android 5.0 is? Jelly Bean, yes. Google hasn't acknowledged it yet, at least as far as I know. But Jelly Bean is the rumored name that'll be for the next OS.
Jelly Bean, they announced it already.
Did they announce it was officially Jelly Bean?
They did announce. It's a rumor.
It's a rumor, right?
Yeah, Jelly Bean, they already announced officially.
Oh, good. Okay, good. I thought they were going to do it at the Google I/O this month. I don't know if anyone have any guesses on what they would have called 1.0 and 1.1. I have no idea. I was thinking about it. I thought.
In some website I saw that even the initial first version they call it as simple Android. They have some name with B also for 1.1.
Really?
I don't remember exactly.
Okay. Yeah. So I haven't seen them myself when I did any research or looking, but I kind of wonder if maybe they want cupcake and then donut, and they said, hey, let's keep going alphabetical. I wonder. I don't think it was the plan from the beginning. I doubt it. I think it's a lot of retroactive stuff, but still. It's kind of fun from a marketing perspective and all for people to know, hey, do you got gingerbread? What do you have? That type of stuff. So, okay. All right, let's do another shirt. We're only going to do a shirt for 5 of these, but who wants to answer this? I have a stock Android 2.2 device. Okay, it's pure Google. No vendor customizations whatsoever. How do I take a screenshot on a 2.2 device?
So, volume rocker button and power button.
Look at the version.
First, hold down.
Okay. Anyone think anything differently?
No, download a third party. There is no support in 2.0.
That is correct.
They have support.
That is correct. There is no method prior to 4.0 on standard operating systems to take screenshots on Google devices. Generally speaking, the method to get screenshots was to root your device and download a third-party app. Even if you look at the third-party apps in the marketplace, they all say you must have a rooted device to use this. So Google finally fixed that in 4.0 using the method you said, which was volume up plus power button. Power button takes it. Okay, did you got it right on your second shot, gray or white? All right, we'll give you a white. Okay, so yes, so none of the above work on a standard 2.2 device. Android OS prior to 4.0 did not have a native way to get it. You needed to seek alternate ways. Rooting, maybe the vendor of the phone added some way in. I've seen that on a few devices, but it was a pain. A lot of people didn't like that they couldn't take screenshots of their device. It took Google a long time to get around to putting it in the base OS, right? Okay, so how the heck do I capture screenshots? As an ice cream sandwich 4X, you could use the built-in screenshot shortcut. Prior to 4.0, there's no built-in way. There may be vendors, or there are some alternatives, which is really routing and using an application from the marketplace. Okay. We talked about the workarounds already. Using Google developer tools and some third-party scripts. Have you guys ever heard of Droid at Screen? Droid at Screen is a Java jar file. You can plug your cable in via USB, run this, and it essentially uses the ADB application to take consistent snapshots of the screen over and over and actually presents to you an actual phone screen that you can see. Maybe at the end I'll show you guys if you want, but I recommend it highly. Droid at Screen, I've been using it since the beginning. That works on all devices. And then you can just take a screenshot from your desktop and get it that way. So that's a good workaround for it. Okay? Okay, I don't think we're going to give a shirt on this one. Which Android version is the most widely deployed? Anyone? 2.3? We're all in agreement? Yeah, so 2.3 is the most one. This gets into the topic of fragmentation we talked about. So this chart's a little bit more than a month old here, but as of April, we see that Android 2.3 was over half the pie, right? If you add Android 2.2 to that, you got like, more than 3/4 of the pie. So that's not bad. So people talk about fragmentation and all, it's getting better, okay? Which is, what's all this hoopla about fragmentation? We talked about this a lot in a previous presentation, but just to get a little, refresher, you have variation in the Android versions, right? So you have everything from 1.5 all the way up to 4X, right? You have a variety in hardware specs, okay? Some have cameras, some have a back camera only, some have a front and back. I saw my first device recently that has only a front camera. Never knew one existed. It only has a front camera, right? Turns out my application didn't detect that device as having a camera because we were specifically looking for a back camera.
In India, you have mostly back cameras.
Yes, and in the US too. Mostly back and then front are on newer devices, but usually they have both now. But I saw a device, I think it was made by Asus, that only had a front camera. So we had to modify our code to say front camera equals has a camera. Vendor customizations, UI tweaks. We'll talk about the UI vendor customizations a little bit later, but there's in there too. Custom software, additional security features, encryption. You get all these different things that can be supported. And then the mobile provider customizes it, right? So you get multiple levels of customization. The vendor, his OS, his customization. I'm sorry, the OS versions, anything it adds. The vendor, so HTC, Samsung, LG, they add their customizations and software and hardware changes. And then the provider, right? Vodafone, Orange, whoever's selling the phone, put their own touch on it. Very big issue in the US. I'm sure it's somewhat of an issue over here as well. Okay? What's bad about fragmentation? Yeah, it makes our life as developers and testers harder. There can be security concerns, right? Some devices support features like encryption, some don't. OS updates aren't released uniformly. Number one complaint, where's my update? We're going to talk about that a little later. That's another one of the mysteries. Inconsistent features across the platform. I want to develop an application that uses NFC. Some phones use it, some don't, right? So you're eliminating a large percentage of the market by requiring NFC in your application. What's good about it? It gives users flexibility, right? You're not, one of the iOS masses, as they call them, who just, conform to Apple. Greater flexibility of your device, ability to expand to new platforms. Anyone here heard of Google TV? I own one. I love it. Great device. Not selling well. Hopefully their Generation 2, which is going to come out sometime this summer, will increase that. But I love my Google TV. Vendor added features make their way into base Android OS. I've seen stuff where HTC or someone has a particular security feature in a phone that we kind of like, and then in the next version of Google OS, they put a version of it in there. So it's not like Google ignores these options, right? They're looking at what the vendors are doing and seeing what's popular and implementing. Okay? Did you know fragmentation is getting better at the OS level, right? The hardware level, we're still not there yet, but at the OS level, we are. And the good news is newer OSs 2.3 and above share a lot of common security features that you can take advantage of with your application, right? My recommendation when you're developing for Android, if you were looking for baseline, I would say 2.2 is the place to start. Okay, if you look at the difference between 6 months or about 8 months ago now in October versus April, you can see that 1.5 is virtually non-existent now, 1.6 is dropping down, and 2.1 took almost half of its usage down. So I would expect if we run these numbers again in October this year, that'll be virtually down. So we got 7% total of anyone who's using 2.1 or less. That's good. Okay, 2.2 and 2.3. What you're going to see is I don't think you're going to see 3X grow by that much at this point, right? 3X, I think, was kind of a stopgap tablet OS for Google, right? All new devices are going to come out with 4X. So we might see that 3X climb to around 5%. I don't anticipate it getting much more than that. There are a few vendors still releasing devices just with 3X, but they've all said there'll be 4X ones by the end of summer. So I think what you'll see is you'll slowly see the 2.2 and 2.3 percentages switch over to 4x and higher, right? That's where you're going to see it going. You're going to see a jump. You're not going to see 3x ever hit that really high number. One of the reasons is that Google never released the source code for 3x originally. They didn't release the source code for the 3x OS until they released Ice Cream Sandwich. Then they released the source code for both at the same time. Okay? Okay, here's one we can ask someone. And this could be more than one, guys. Which of the following devices support hardware encryption?
Samsung Galaxy S.
Hold on.